is accusing agents of the government of India of orchestrating criminal activity in this country, including murder and extortion. The stunning allegations led to the expulsion of 6 Indian diplomats allegedly involved. India vehemently denies those allegations, calling them politically motivated, and India retaliated in kind, expelling 6 Canadian diplomats. Spared, though, Canada's High Commissioner to India, Cameron MacKay. Hello, High Commissioner. Good to have you on our program. Thank you for making the time.
Thanks very much, Vashi, for having me.
And now you were spared because your posting, I should say, actually came to a conclusion at the end of the summer. So you're back here in Ottawa. I have to ask, though, as someone who spent a lot of time in India representing our country, if you're surprised at all at the point we're at right now.
Well, no, I can't say I am surprised. I'm really disappointed. But of course, we've been building to this for some time, from September of last year when the Prime Minister made the comments that he did in the House of Commons all the way up to now. Law enforcement authorities in Canada have been working very hard to dig into all of this all the way along, and I've been kept apprised to a certain level. So again, not surprised, but definitely disappointed, and disappointed in particular at India's reaction.
And could I ask you to expand on that and sort of shed some light on, when you were in India, the degree to which you may have been involved in attempts to share information or share evidence or intel? Like, what can you tell us about what our government has been doing to try and get India to cooperate?
Well, we've had meetings at multiple levels from about 15 months ago, from August of 2023, at the level of the Prime Minister, at the level of ministers, the National Security Intelligence Advisor, top Canadian law enforcement and intelligence officials, myself as well, all reaching out through the year to try to share information with India, to seek their cooperation in everything that's happened up to now. So there's no doubt in my mind that we have shared more than sufficient information and evidence with the Indian side up to now at every level of the Canadian government and the Indian government.
I want to ask you about that again, only because India has been adamant that that isn't the case, right? That no evidence has been shared with them. Yeah. I of course fully acknowledge that part of the reason the RCMP says they delivered this information last week is because they attempted to do just that and were met with resistance. But what can you tell us about I guess more about those efforts, and can you be conclusive? Were there efforts to share evidence specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. Conclusively, there were multiple efforts to share clear, compelling, abundant evidence with the government of India all the way along. And all the way along, frankly, Canada was seeking India's cooperation and collaboration in this regard. Frankly, we just haven't seen it so far. Instead, the Indian government, I think, for domestic political purposes, has responded by vilifying Canada, by dismissing the evidence that we've provided to them. That's been a very successful domestic communication strategy for India. Internationally, I don't think it's credible at all, but certainly it has worked for them, within India.
Can you expand on that context for many of us who might not be familiar with what's happening domestically and politically, insofar as when you say that they might have not cooperated for domestic political purposes? What do you mean specifically?
Well, I think this whole series of incidents is really a fiasco for the Indian government. I think there were a series of mistakes made. There was the strategic error first by some Indian officials to engage in violent crimes up to the level or to contract out, I should say, violent crimes up to the level of murder across North America. Again, a serious strategic error on their part. There were tactical errors, of course, that led them to be caught, as they have been exposed now. There have been diplomatic errors on the part of India in its response to Canada. But I think in order to divert attention and distract from this, the Indian government response, rather than collaboration, has been to attack and vilify Canada. It's taken a very different approach, as has been noted, with the United States of America. Of course, the United States of America is the USA and plays a very different role globally than Canada does, has a very different relationship bilaterally with India than Canada does. So India has elaborated a kind of a false distinction between what has happened in the United States and what has happened in Canada. And it's been very successful for them in terms of domestic media coverage. But internationally, I don't think that's the case. There's been some real damage to brand India as a result of all of this.
Part of the distinction that they've drawn between the U.S. and Canada, from what we've heard so far from their government, is that they have accused our government of essentially being too welcoming and not, I guess, not taking the right course of action when it comes to Sikh separatists, who they classify as extremists. How would you respond to that accusation?
Well, I think Canada is a rule of law country, and we're dedicated to law enforcement. And if we learn of and have credible information about violent extremism or terrorism that is occurring in Canada or emanating from Canada, we take it really seriously. And we follow our own rules in investigating all of this. So the Indian government has complained for a long time about certain activities that take place on the streets in Canada. We don't have the evidence and information that we would need to make any arrests of these people that they would like to see arrested. And I think it's worth understanding here that we have some real differences in law between Canada and India. I'll give you one concrete example: flag burning. Flag burning in Canada is legal as long as public safety is not endangered. When a flag is burned, we consider it to be constitutionally protected free speech. It falls in the category of awful but lawful. In India, on the other hand, burning a flag is illegal. Burning the flag of India or any other nation. So I think many Indians find it incomprehensible that some of the activities that occur on the streets in Canada occur here and there are no arrests as a result. But frankly, that's the way Canadian law works. It's different than India, and the Indian government needs to come to accept that.
Is it then your position that, they say that there are more than 24 people they want to see extradited, that the evidence does not exist to support those extraditions?
Well, we're certainly seeking more. In fact, it is the case that the Indian government has, I believe, 27 outstanding extradition requests to Canada. And let me be clear that in the past, where India has shared sufficient information, we have successfully extradited people from Canada to face law, the rule of law in India. So our extradition process can work. India is an important extradition partner for Canada. But in the recent cases, or the ones that are outstanding now, 27 of them, 26 of those files have been returned to India to seek further substantiation, further information to meet Canadian evidentiary standards. So frankly, on 26 of the 27, the ball is in India's court and has been for some time. And then I believe there's one remaining one that's under review here in Ottawa. So I think it's a diversion tactic to claim that Canada has been uncooperative in these law enforcement matters. I consider it to be simply not true.
I will leave it on that note. High Commissioner, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Vashi.